Hi, it's Lois here and welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'm going to be using a limited palette of raw sienna, which I'm just going to put across a wet sheet of paper to start off the sky, and then the other two colours in my limited palette will be cobalt blue and light red. Now, I've mixed these together into quite a rich mixture, and I'm going to just sweep across the top of my page with my large Hake brush, just putting in some slightly diagonal strokes, not worrying about it dripping down too much. I want to have a bit of character in the sky and to put some of the colours dry brushed across the foreground, across the land where I'm going to be trying to build up a sort of sand dune and distant sea scene, so a sort of beach scene. Now I like the look of that, but I don't want it to run down any further, and I want to sort of tilt the running slightly so that it's not just coming straight down, but so that it comes down more gently at a sort of a slight angle. So I'm turning the board, so all this area here I want to sort of more or less keep as it is with that little bit of light there, but just tilt the board at an angle, and then the wet paint as it runs down the page will kind of even up a bit and give me the look, more of the perspective of the sky, if you see what I mean. Next I'm going to just do a simple brush stroke across where I'm going to have my distant sea area of raw sienna. I want the little bit of strip of sea at the back, at the horizon, just to look quite far away, as if we're standing on the dunes with the sea in the distance. So I think that's pretty much set the scene now. I think that I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to let it dry and then finish it off when it's dry with a little bit of detail in the foreground, maybe some in the midground, I'm not sure, but I really like the sky as it is. Right, that's dried off completely, so now I'm going to, I think I'm not quite sure what I want here in the midground. I want something, I'm not sure, something because to focus on the sky, but what I think I'm going to do first is start on the foreground, putting in some windswept grasses on the sand dunes. So using the rigger brush and various mixtures of the three colours, raw sienna, cobalt blue and light red, I'm just going to pull up some tufts of grass, just a tangle of grass really for the foreground, something and nothing really, just to suggest that this is the grassy sort of banks as you walk towards the beach, down towards the sand dunes. I'm going to have some grasses on either side, but I don't want them to look exactly the same, so I'm going to keep them of slightly different size on the right side. So I'm going to carry on working from left to right. As I work, I'll sometimes take a squirrel mop, a small squirrel mop, just with a little bit of thin paint, and just sweep it across the bottom just to kind of blend in the base of those grasses a little bit more, maybe put a bit of variety of colour in there as well, and it just helps to make that foreground look loose but fairly convincing. Just a slightly different shaped tuft of grasses there, so it doesn't look too uniform and too regular. This is, I think, a number 1 rigger. I'm afraid it was a gift, so I've got no idea what brand it is. There's no markings on it, but it's a lovely brush. Just going back and forth a bit, just evening things up, balancing things up, slightly changing parts if it begins to look too similar. Just more on this side now. You can have them really leaning here. I'm just changing up the colours here and there, having these really lean over so that it's almost like this. It creates the beginning, a visual opening to get into the painting up to where the dramatic sky is. Adding some slightly different colours and lengths to the grass, just to try and make it look more interesting. You can take your time with something like this. As we're working on a dry painting, there's no rush, and just keep sitting back and looking and deciding where it needs a little bit of an adjustment, maybe a little bit of darkening, or bringing in a slightly different colour, that sort of thing. Now I'm going to use this small synthetic mop. It's a lovely brush that was given to me by a friend. I'm just going to sweep a bit of the cobalt blue, quite dilute, just across the base, just to sort of bring that sand dune together, to give it some shadow. Now I'm taking a mixture of all three of those colours, quite a dark colour but not too thick, and I'm going to just carefully draw in a few birds in the lighter area of that sky there, because that's the sort of area that I would like my focal point in the sky to be. So I think the birds are just going to do a good job of drawing the eye towards that, but also of sort of linking the sky to the land. If any of them go on too dark, you can quickly and carefully just blot off with a tissue, because you don't want them to be too dark or too large. Just a little group of birds will do. At this stage I'm trying to decide whether or not I think it's finished. I'm not sure. It's almost there. I just think maybe I need to draw attention to the distant sea across there a little bit more. So I think I just want a pale brushstroke line across there, and I'm going to just use my ruler there, not to rule a paint line across, but just as a guide, and I'm going to sort of dot and dash and streak the paint across just above the ruler. I want a narrow line, and because I'm painting round the camera here, it's really hard to get it straight, and this should help me to get it reasonably straight. Well, I think that looks okay. Just go in and maybe with a damp brush soften parts of the line out, just to really make sure it's well pushed back, and so that it just really looks as if it's quite far in the distance. Just at this stage again where I'm just making tiny adjustments, softening or strengthening the line a little, because I think that's all I need just to finish the painting off. So if we just zoom in a little bit, you can see how there's almost a suggestion of possibly a small island or something like that out there, or a headland. And here's the finished painting. Well, I hope you like that. If you wanted to, you could also put in maybe a lighthouse or some boats or a couple of figures walking down to the beach. Something like this creates a nice open composition with lots of potential for all sorts of different types of things that you could do with it. Well, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and if you enjoyed it and want to learn more about this type of watercolour painting, then follow the link and take a look at my Patreon page, where we've got a lovely group of people learning to paint along with me. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.